What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Side Guys Football Forum. It's been a while. It's been like about, 2-3 weeks since we posted anything. We had a little bit of the Christmas vacation, obviously New Year's. Hey, happy belated New Year to you, buddy.
Happy belated New Year's, 2022.
It's been a long time since we talked, since the New Year happened. Obviously, the holidays happened. Clearly, you can see a different background for Tad. He has now moved into a new location. So, yeah, that's part of the reason why it's been a bit of a hiatus. But, Tad, it's good to be back with you, man.
It's good to be back. I miss doing the show. Guys, I apologize for the hiatus. It's all on me. It is 100% on me. So, yeah, obviously Christmas break, we took that off. I'm a teacher now, so I can officially say I still enjoy Christmas break. My plan was, okay, Christmas break, take that off. New Year's Eve, hopefully if, my move goes well, hopefully we can squeeze an episode in. AT&T, I hate you. Okay? So I moved on December 29th. They say, hey, we can have a guy out there on December 30th. I go, great. So we can do a, New Year's Eve episode, something like that. That'll be awesome. December 30th comes, dude never shows. So I call them. I'm like, what's going on? They go, oh, yeah, that was a tentative date. New guy's going to come tomorrow. I'm like, on New Year's Eve. And they're like, yeah. I was like, you sure? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. And I texted him. I was like, all right, dude, they're setting up the internet. We can record on New Year's Eve before I go out. And he goes, okay, awesome. Me too. Let's do it. New Year's Eve comes. Guy's still not there. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I checked my email confirmation. They did schedule me for New Year's Eve, December 31st. 2036. They scheduled me for 15 years in the future. I called customer support. The guy himself started laughing. He's like, I've never seen that before. I'm like, really? Really? So for the first week that I lived in my apartment, I literally had to go off my hotspot. I am terrified of viewing my cell phone bill this month. So I will take partial blame. I put most of the blame on AT&T for this one. If AT&T is a future sponsor, I rescind that.
We'll see what happens down the road if they ever do become a sponsor.
Use the code #DecidGuys.
We'll look back on this episode and wonder why. But let's save that for a future Tad and future Armor to worry about. But yeah, it's nice to be back. We're here to talk. Obviously, unfortunately, fantasy football season has come to its close. It's now
unfortunately for
off
you.
season.
Hey-o.
But yeah, that doesn't mean that the episodes are going to stop here. Now we're going to get into more just general football stuff. And hey, what's coming up this weekend? We have some playoff football action. It is the first playoff weekend. So we're going to dive into all the different respective days' games. Today we're going to start with the Saturday games. Make sure you check it out for our later episodes where we'll cover the Sunday games. And then a special episode for that Monday night game between the Rams and the Cardinals with all that LAFB action. Make sure you're following wherever LAFB network stuff is happening.
I am muting Slack that day so fast. That is going to be so many messages.
That is true. But our LAFB guys have you covered. If you're Rams fans out there, there's a ton of articles previewing how the game's going to go. This is obviously the third time that they're meeting up, the twice in the regular season. They split the regular season series. So lots of great coverage. If you're interested in that game, we'll have a dedicated episode there. But we are going to start with the Saturday games first. We're going to start with the very first game of the NFL playoff weekend, and that is between the Las Vegas Raiders, the number 5 seed, playing the Cincinnati Bengals, the number 4 seed. This is at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC and Peacock. And just in case you're not near a TV for some reason, you can stream it on Peacock. But yeah, both teams are 10-7. It's going to be a very interesting matchup there. This is one of 5 games during the playoff weekend where the teams have met in the regular season. So the Cincinnati played host to the Raiders back in week 11. They came away with the victory, winning 32-13. Joe Burrow was a little bit contained in that game. He only threw for about 148 yards, if I remember correctly. But Joe Mixon, my Lord, did he have a day. He went for 123 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns on 30 attempts. So they fed him, and they fed him consistently. He was able to get the job done. So we'll see if he has a very similar game coming up on Saturday against the Raiders. I'm looking towards Cincinnati probably winning this game, but I mean, it's not a guarantee because I mean, there have been times this season where they've looked really strong and we've talked about them. You know, we said that they are going to be a surprise team and they really just went from worst to first. They obviously won the AFC North this year, but it's just like there have been times where it's like a little bit like games they should have won, they ended up losing. Like, you lose to Mike White and the New York Jets in Week 8. Like, I mean, how does that happen? That's an absolute head scratcher.
No, every year there's a game like that where people way overreact, and you're falling for the trap, dude. You're doing it. You're doing the thing. Don't do the thing. There's two things you don't do. You don't fall for the trap game. You never doubt Tom Brady. Buccaneers are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Spoiler alert. But, no, I get that, but... Look, that was a bad loss, of course, but even that bad loss was still close.
It's true. It's true. And, you know, like I said, overall, they have the better roster. I think they can make a good run here. The only thing that could possibly come into play as well is just playoff inexperience, because it's not just they have young players. It's a young head coach, too. He's only in his second year, Zach Taylor and that coaching staff there. So I wonder if that's going to play a factor as well. You look on the other sideline. I mean, Las Vegas, they rose from the grave. Like, I mean,
hold on. Are we saying that other sideline has a lot of playoff experience from Derek Carr?
I'm not saying they have a ton of experience.
And the interim coach whose name I'm not even going to dare try to pronounce.
Rich Bisaccia, definitely the interim
hope
head
to
coach.
God he doesn't get the job for the sole reason that I never have to pronounce that name again.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying he has a ton of experience either, and neither do these
His
Raiders
name sounds
as
like
well.
an Italian dish.
It very much could be, you know? But yeah, they rose from the grave, seriously. Like, I mean, they were destined to start their offseason early. They lost 5 of their 6 games coming off the bye week, and then all of a sudden, they went 5-2 heading into the bye week. They just... won the last 4 games of the regular season. They won that play-in game with the Los Angeles Chargers. It was a very close game, very playoff type of game, and they were able to come away with the victory, went into overtime and everything. And, you know, they're a very good team too, so it's like you just don't know which Raiders team is going to show up. You don't know which Cincinnati team is going to show up, so it's going to be closer than I think people think, but I still like Cincinnati in this game. I think they just have the better roster. Even with that inexperience, I think just they have a lot more playmakers on both offense and defense. So yeah, for me, I'm liking the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. Final score prediction for me, 31 for the Bengals, 21 for the Raiders. Like, I think it might be close early, but I think Cincinnati will be able to separate themselves from the Las Vegas Raiders in the second half. So what are your thoughts on this game here?
Not a ton, because honestly, I don't think this game is going to be that close. Because I want to nip this in the bud right now. I hate all this talk, and I'm not saying it's just you, but I hate all this talk about, oh, Raiders are hot. They're a hot team going to the playoffs. Okay, let's take a look at their past, couple wins, all right? First win of the streak, Cleveland, 16-14. Remember, a guy you're well familiar with, Cleveland's leading passer in that game, Nick Mullins. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. After that, Denver. Enough said. Colts. I don't care what anyone says. Carson Wentz was definitely still sick for that game. He should not have played in that game. Take it from a Colts fan. He was no. So, I will give him that, though. The Colts win was impressive. And then they played the Chargers in what was a fantastic game. I'm not going to take anything away from that game. But Brandon Staley knew how to manage the clock. That would have been a loss, and we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. So, first off, the whole Raiders are hot thing, I don't like it. I do like what you said, or I think that's interesting what you said about lack of playoff experience with the Bengals. I hadn't considered that. That could easily be weakness, but I just think this is such a efficient offense going against a very questionable defense so far that I don't see Cincinnati really playing it that close against Las Vegas. I see Cincinnati really running away with this. And also, here's an interesting stat for you, Mer. It's supposed to snow in Cincinnati for this game. Okay, this is where home field advantage comes in. When it snows, Derek Carr's 0-5.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Now, here's my real big problem with the Raiders. They're only one of 2 teams in the playoffs that have a negative scoring margin. So, with that stat going into a game against this explosive offense in the league, arguably the best offense in the league, that is just pointing at real trouble for me. So, here's the X factor for the Raiders. If this guy has a good game, I could see the Raiders hanging around and making this a little closer. It all depends on Max Crosby. If Max Crosby can do a good job pressuring Joe Burrow, who does really well under pressure, but that offensive line is clearly the biggest weakness probably on the team, to be honest. It's either the offensive line or the linebacking core. I think if Max Crosby can do well, then the Raiders will be close. But unfortunately, I think the Bengals know that. They're smarter than I am, so they're going to focus on Crosby, shut him down. My final score prediction, Bengals 37, Raiders 17.
Ooh, wow. More of a one-sided
I'm not seeing it as a close game.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, Max Crosby getting after Joe Burrow, I think that's going to be crucial, along with the rest of that, Raiders defensive line, getting some pressure on him. I know we also spoke about the inexperience for Cincinnati, but hey, two of their key players on offense, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they played at LSU. They played in plenty of high, stakes games back in college, so I think they're probably used to these stakes as well, so maybe that should be a good factor for them to not have to worry about, playoff jitters or, anything along those lines. So I think that should work in their favor too.
Do you think Andrew Whitworth is sitting there in LA like, come on, like I was there for a decade and now you guys are good, like come on, like how do I go to the worst playoff team now? Like come on.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, I think it should be a pretty good game to start off the playoff weekend, and we'll see how things go. But I think both me and Tad are in the favor that Cincinnati will win their first playoff game since 1990. Like, I mean,
fun fact I saw. So text messages were invented in '91. So no one has ever sent a text message saying the Bengals have won a playoff game.
Yeah, that was brought up on the radio. I was listening to radio recently, and somebody brought up that exact stat. So yeah, we'll see if Cincinnati can get it done. But yeah, the Raiders could be surprisingly feisty. So we'll see exactly how this game goes. The next game that we have on Saturday is the afternoon game. It is between the number 6 seed New England Patriots playing against their division rival, the number 3 seed Buffalo Bills. This will be happening at 5:15 Pacific time, 8:15 Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus. Just in case you're not near TV, you can stream it on Paramount Plus. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting games of the playoff weekend. Take aside my bias being a Niner fan and the Niners-Cowboys game happening on Sunday, but this one, I think just very similar teams because they both have elite defensive units. Bills allowed the fewest points in the league this past regular season. The Patriots allowed the second fewest. The Bills allowed the fewest yards in the league. The Patriots allowed the fourth fewest. And then you also throw into the fact that, Buffalo had one of the better running games, surprisingly. Like, we've talked about this heading into the season, that if Buffalo can establish a running game, they could be that much more of a balanced offense. They were very up and down the entire season. That's not a promise,
though. I was about to say, that's their running, that's the weakest part of their team.
That is true, but towards the end of the season, we saw Devin Singletary getting a lot better, getting a lot more acclimated to this offense. No Zach Moss, no Matt Breida, no changing it out. We saw a lot of Devin Singletary, and he was able to live up to the bill, and he's been a really good part of this offense. Part of the reason the bill.
Live up to the bill. I see what you did there.
And they've been able to be a lot of a more, stronger team heading into the postseason now. So expect him to get a lot of carries and be a focal point of the offense, along with Josh Allen and that passing offense, obviously. But hey, that's what the Patriots do too. They love to run the ball. They have all these great guys. Davian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Brandon Bolden had a great game in Week 18. So it's like they have a lot of great guys too. And especially with Mac Jones as a rookie quarterback, you maybe don't want to put everything on his shoulders because we saw a little bit towards the end. He started to crumble a little bit. He was peaking during their 7-game win streak during the middle of the season. But then all of a sudden, he started to stumble a little bit. It just wasn't the same guy towards the end of the season. So you wonder if Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels decide to take the ball a little bit more out of his hands, put it more in the running game. Obviously, they have an elite defense. So do the Buffalo Bills. So it's going to be very back and forth for me. Once again, we talked about this since they're divisional opponents. They played twice against each other this year. So, it's going to be a very close game. It's going to be a very interesting game. I'm just wondering just which way it's going to go. This was one of the harder games for me to predict, and I think it's going to be very closely fought. I'm thinking that the Bills, as the home team, they'll find a way to pull it out, but I could very much see New England Patriots upsetting here too, so it's like, I could really see this swinging either way, but like I said, I'm predicting the Bills to win this game. I got a final score prediction of the Bills 21, Patriots 17. So it's going to be a very narrow margin of victory. But what are your thoughts here, Bills Patriots?
Yeah, we're going straight from one of the games I'm the least excited for to one of the games I'm the most excited for. Because I was right there with you. I was literally sitting there at my table going like, do I do the upset? Can the Patriots do this? And I was really struggling. I really wanted to pick the Patriots, and this is almost impossible to call. This is a toss-up.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited for this one because here's a very interesting stat that shocked me when I was doing my research. Patriots this year, 6-2 on the road. Those guys are road warriors.
Yeah.
But they're going against a very, very good Bills offense. Like you said, Singletary's trying to find his stride. Josh Allen, I'm going to get to him in a bit, but still a very talented quarterback. And honestly, one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL, in my opinion. So when the Patriots allow their opponents to score 25 points or more, they have lost every single game this season.
Okay.
So while Mac Jones is deserving of all this credit he's getting, he has clearly looked like the best quarterback drafted in the first round so far because, of course, Patriots. It's clear that when there's a shootout, he can't keep up. I'm not going to put all the blame on his shoulders. That offense is still a little limited with receivers. Jonnu Smith is not the signing they were hoping he'd be. So that's still a pretty limited offense. But with that said, that means the Patriots are going to try and make this a defensive type of game. And they probably will, because here's why. I feel like a weatherman this episode. There's a cold front coming into Buffalo this weekend.
There you go.
Amir, guess what the high is in Buffalo for game time?
I'm going to say like maybe 15.
15, you're close. It's 10 degrees.
10 degrees.
That's the high.
Yeah. I was thinking it's going to be something ridiculously low like that. Okay.
It's 10 degrees is the high. So
Wow.
I think this is going to be a very limited offensive game because, like, throwing in that weather, quarterback gets hit a couple times, it's going to hurt a little extra more. So I really think this is going to be a ground and pound type of game. I'm here for it. I'm going to absolutely love it. And here's my one concern for the Bills, though. Over the last 5 games, Josh Allen has thrown for 10 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. If you guys watch the show Chernobyl, it reminded me a lot of the part where they're like, not great, not bad. And it's just, it's Chernobyl level. It's like, not great, not bad. It's just, okay, like, that's your average quarterback. But Josh Allen to be the Patriots, and because, I mean, Belichick, props to him, man. Like, he has lived up to Brady did not make me. We made each other. Like, Brady's clearly proven Belichick didn't make me. Belichick's clearly proving right now that Brady didn't make me either. So they're both great. Good for you guys. So Allen needs to be better than good, not great against Bill Belichick. So that is where I think the Bills' chances really lie of, do we get upset here or do we pull this off and finally beat the Patriots? So I think it will be a very close game. I'm very excited for it. I think it will be a little less scoring than you predicted. My final prediction, 17-10 Bills.
17-10. So you got the touchdown victory there between the two of them in the final score. Okay. Yeah. So I think we both like the Bills here, but I think we're both in agreement.
It wouldn't shock me at all if the Patriots
exactly.
won.
If the Patriots pull the upset here, it's just like it would not be that shocking. I think they're both, like I said, very similarly built teams. Like you said, with the weather being so ridiculously, low. I've heard this brought up before because the Niners played against the Packers a couple years ago, back when they still had Colin Kaepernick, and the weather was ridiculous in Green Bay. They had to travel for that, and they mentioned that when you're throwing the ball and it's that cold, catching the ball is like literally catching a rock. It's like impossible to catch, and it just like hurts a lot. And so like that's why you sort of focus more on running the ball because it's just a lot easier. You don't have to worry about potential drops and things like that.
And like you said, the Patriots are much deeper at running back than the Bills are, so that could be a huge advantage.
100%. But, like you said, if Josh Allen's going to be an X factor, maybe he'll have to become more of like, a running quarterback as well, having to, bootleg, coming out on runs, maybe install a little bit of RPO action.
Josh Allen survives on those bootlegs.
Exactly. So it's like, maybe he'll have to do a lot more of that in order to become, leading this offense to a potential victory. Because like you said, he has to be, great, not good in order for the Bills to win this game. So, we only got 2 games on Saturday. It's a little bit surprising, but yeah, maybe with the holiday weekend and, the NFL schedulers were like, hey, we typically have morning, afternoon, and evening games on Sunday. Let's just leave it that way. So yeah, this episode's relatively short. We only got the 2 games there. We both liked Cincinnati to win that game against the Las Vegas Raiders in the afternoon game, and we both like Buffalo to come away with a victory against New England, but we're not 100% sold that it will for sure happen. We would not be surprised if New England pulls the upset. So yeah, those are the two games that we have planned for Saturday. Like we said, we're going to be doing an episode for the Sunday games, as well as a dedicated episode for that Monday night game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. But hey, to make sure you're always aware about when those videos are dropping, you see it on the Twitter stock line right there. At the bottom, you got my personal handle, UmberDesai23. You got Tad's at TadDesai94. You got the show handle, DDesai, guys. Make sure you're following along. Make sure you're subscribing to us wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We mentioned that maybe we're not doing fantasy content as much during the offseason. Still going to be dropping a lot of great content. Obviously, we're going to get into all those head coaching firings. Free agency is going to be happening. Talked about the Super Bowl before that, obviously. Free agency. I mean, there's a lot of great things that are still going to be happening during the offseason. The draft, obviously. We're definitely going to be talking about that. So lots of great things are going to be happening in the offseason. We'll be here to cover that. So yeah, we'll cover it on YouTube, the podcast. Obviously, follow us along on our Twitter timelines. Interact with us. We're always, great to interact with you guys. You'll definitely get a shout out if you do. And just, yeah, to everybody that's watching us, who's listening to us, who's interacting with us, gave us a great rating. Anything and everything in between. Guys, we really just can't thank you enough.
Thanks for listening, guys.